What if the 9 till 5 is slowly dying? What if work no longer fits into neat boxes and instead stretches across the whole day and maybe beyond? The Infinity Workday is a phrase that sparks both concern and curiosity. Is it the future of work, or is it a fast road to burnout? Welcome to LevelUp Leadership, the podcast designed to help you elevate your leadership journey. I'm Lee, and today we're exploring the Infinity Workday. It's a term that challenges how we think about time and productivity. For some, it feels empowering, offering freedom and autonomy. For others, it feels like the door to endless obligation. Here's how we'll unpack it. Firstly, we'll talk about what the Infinity Workday means and why it's resonating now. Then we'll talk about the dangers and the real risks it can bring. We'll talk about the cultural behaviours and subtle pressures that drive it. We'll dig into what we can learn from freelancers and entrepreneurs who already operate this way. Then we'll look at how employees and leaders can bring the positives of this into their world. And finally, we'll look at the bigger responsibility, what organisations must change if Infinity is to be sustainable. Okay, let's go. So what is the Infinity Workday? The Infinity Workday is not a formal model, but more of a reflection of reality. Work has leaked out of its tidy daytime box and is spreading across the waking hours of our lives. For knowledge workers especially, the 9 till 5 feels like a relic. It made sense in the industrial era, when productivity was tethered to machines, and the early office era, when customers interacted only during business hours. But today, our anchoring points have moved. Laptops, smartphones, and global collaboration mean you can do your work almost anywhere, at almost any time. Think about the last time you consciously finished work. Was it when you closed your laptop? Was it the last Slack ping? Or was it just before bed when you remembered one more stray task and pulled out your phone to email yourself a reminder? For many people, work no longer has a neat end. Global teams make this sharper. A colleague in London might log off just as the California team is logging on. Someone might bend their evening or their early morning. Boundaries flex. Hybrid working complicates it further. People now build their day around personal commitments, doing the school run or exercising mid-afternoon, then making up time in the evening. On paper, this looks like balance. But equally, it fragments the workday and fuels the sense that I'm never really off. So the Infinity Workday, it's not about literal hours, it's about a mindset and a culture. It forces us to ask, are we clinging to a clock-based assumption that no longer fits the reality of our workday? Or are we brave enough to reshape work around outcomes and trust? What's the risk of Infinity? Now let's be blunt. If handled carelessly, the Infinity Workday is a route to overwork. Burnout rates are already soaring across many industries. When you make work infinite, you risk amplifying those trends, even if your intentions are positive. A middle manager I was coaching was once praised for his responsiveness. But he never switched off. He was clearing PowerPoints at midnight and apologising for being offline at any time. The physical toll? Migraines, insomnia, and a strained family relationship. Infinity culture convinced him that survival meant always being available. What about the illusion of productivity? I've seen people online for 12, 14 hours a day, even more. Yet with breakthroughs only really happening after 1 or 2 hours of deep focus. Infinity stretches the hours, but it shrunk the effectiveness. What about fractured relationships? People sneakily scroll work chats during family time or sports events, physically present, but mentally away. Over time, relationships suffer, and sometimes resentment towards the employer can creep in. Organisations often convince themselves that this is commitment or engagement. In truth, they're draining creativity, energy, and loyalty. Infinity can easily turn into exploitation. How about the culture and subtle pressures that drive Infinity? Here's where it bites. Much of what drives the Infinity Workday is not a HR policy, It's all about behaviours and unspoken cues. Take the "just because I sent the email at 9 p.m. doesn't mean I expected a reply" excuse. Harmless? Maybe, but teams interpret power signals differently. A manager might see it as productivity on their terms, but the team may see it as a subtle demand to drop everything. And there's the anxiety. Should I be online? Creating exactly the infinity culture everyone says they want to avoid. Another invisible pressure is fear of missing out. People log back on in the evening, not out of a love for work, but out of a worry that things will move ahead without them. What if I miss the opportunity? What if I'm left out of the loop? What if decisions are made before I get a chance to respond? That anxiety fuels the tethering. I've seen it in all kinds of industries, things like in retail logistics. If the shift leader stays behind to finish up, others feel pressure to stay on. Over time, culture builds up, unspoken rules dedicate what people do. The same logic applies in corporate life. Balance becomes disrespected and infinity slips in by stealth. As leaders, it's vital that we recognise this. It isn't enough to say, "I don't expect replies at night." You must actively model balance. Celebrate switched off behaviour and make absence normal. Without that, people will read your habits as hidden expectations. What can we learn from freelancers and self-employed? Infinity doesn't always lead to burnout. Some communities have used it to great effect. Freelancers, consultants, and entrepreneurs have been living this way for years, and in many cases, it works. Why? Well, they have ownership of their calendar. A freelancer may sleep in and work late. Their client doesn't care about hours, only outcomes. Freedom works because time truly belongs to the worker. Outcomes over input. A consultant I once partnered with said, "No one ever asks me how long it took. They only ask, has it solved the problem?" Hours dissolve when outcomes are exceptional. And intentional design. Freelancers often respond to overwork by actively creating balance. They block their gym time mid-morning, they finish early on a Friday, they take creative sabbaticals. This intentionality makes their infinity more human. Here's something I learned from a friend who's a freelancer. He often alternates between intensity and rest. He'll do a week of 12-hour crunches, but then he'll take a few days off guilt-free. Employed staff rarely have that cycle. That's what makes infinity harder inside traditional organisation. The recovery gaps don't exist. So the lesson? Infinity works only when ownership, output focus, and balance safeguards are in place. Without these, infinity collapses. So how can employees use this and how can leaders support them? For employees, think outcomes before hours. Map out weekly goals. Once the outcomes are delivered, let go of any guilt about hours. Energy timing. Notice your natural rhythms. If you do your best work from 6 a.m. or 9 p.m. or midday, shape tasks that way and communicate it clearly. Defend your rest. Diarise downtime the way you diarise meetings. Intentional absence is not laziness. It's fuel for sustained performance. Use technology and tools. Snooze your notifications. Use delay send. Make calendar blocks public. Communicate when you're offline. And for leaders, your behaviour is the message. Sending midnight messages, even with no expectation, still creates cultural pressure. Use delay send. Model your boundaries. Normalise rest. Celebrate staff who both deliver an outcome and hold clear boundaries. Publicly value balance. Make intent explicit. If you work evenings, tell people, "This is my rhythm. No response required." Clarity helps to counteract anxiety. And here's a mini case study. A logistic manager I knew some time ago, he trialled no email Wednesday. At first, there were laughs, then relief, and within a month, staff showed higher energy and reported finding Thursdays more creative. Simple guardrails shift culture profoundly. Infinity isn't bad by default. It's what you as a leader permit and protect that determines whether it feels like empowerment or oppression. So, what must organisations do? Infinity cannot simply be bolted onto the 9 to 5. That becomes exploitation, 2 jobs stacked and not 1 job redefined. So what must organisations do? Number 1, rethink measurement. Stop equating time online with commitment. Measure value delivered. Number 2, grant permission to rest. Policies matter. Ban out of hour emails. Trial no meeting mornings. Create organisational anchors that prove rest is legitimate currency. Number 3, train your middle managers. Managers often cling to visibility as proof of work. Train them in outcome-based leadership, coaching skills, empathy. The middle layer either breaks or sustains culture. Number 4, infrastructure to support flexibility. Equip teams with asynchronous systems, structured handout notes, and delay tools. Tech is either a leash or a liberator. Choose intentionally. Number 5, replace, don't layer. The key to infinity is not extra time, it's replacement of the old orthodoxy. Eliminate the sacred 9 to 5 expectation. Shift to results and trust. Organisations that get this right will unleash fresh energy, innovation, and attraction, particularly across younger generations who see autonomy as the basics. Done poorly, infinity becomes toxic. People will leave, creativity will choke, and reputation will bleed. Leadership must decide, is infinity going to be about trust and autonomy, or endless expectations? That choice rests squarely with us. So here's my question for you. If your own work week stretched into infinity, would it feel like freedom or fatigue? And what's one practical boundary you could change tomorrow to push it closer to freedom? Thanks for tuning in to Level Up Leadership. If you found this useful, share it with a colleague or a team member. And don't forget to hit follow or subscribe to keep up to date with more conversations on the future of leadership. And until next time, keep leading, keep learning, and keep leveling up.